Yo, what's good in Soccer We Trust YouTube family? We're talking about what happens to our back line now that starting U.S. men's national team defender Miles Robinson is out for the World Cup after tearing his Achilles this past weekend, which we are heartbroken about. So hit like and subscribe to make us feel a little bit better. I don't know if it's going to help, but we can at least try. And let's get after it. Yes. What is up, everyone, and welcome to the podcast that leading doctors claim is good for your health. It's in Soccer We Trust. I'm Jimmy Conrad, alongside my handsome cohorts and former U.S. men's national team teammates Charlie Davies and Heath Pierce. We, of course, are excited to have a show for you today, as always, but we wish it wasn't about the injury to a significant member of our backline for the national team, Miles Robinson. In case you were spending too much time with your mom for Mother's Day and missed the news, the 25-year-old center back for Atlanta United ruptured his Achilles this past weekend in his club's 4-1 win over the Chicago Fire, meaning he can not only miss the remainder of the MLS season, but also the World Cup. And that is huge news, Charlie, because Miles Robinson started 11 out of 14 World Cup qualifiers for us. He has become a linchpin in that back line. Give me your initial thoughts on this injury.
I'm gutted for him. I mean, this is a positive kid who had so much potential, and I think he was just scratching the surface, to be honest. I think he was just coming to grips with, man, I have a long way to go. I think I've had relatively short-term success, but ultimately I can be so much better with the ball. I think his command of the box, being able to move people around and not necessarily rely on a veteran to kind of organize the team. I think he's improved a long way with that, but also breaking lines with passes and not just relying on his athleticism. He's come a long way and he still has so far to go. It's really a tough one because this is a real positive influence in the locker room.
Yeah, and Heath, what are you thinking? Outside of all the obviously progression that he's made, as we've seen in front of our own very eyes, when he really emerged during the Gold Cup last summer, scored the winning goal in the Gold Cup final in extra time with the header, wearing the number 12 shirt, like I did once when I scored against Mexico, early flex of the day. But how are you feeling about this? Not only from a collective standpoint, but also on an individual level, because if we look at it pretty hard here, he's 25. And given the amount of talent we have coming through the pipeline, there's no guarantee that he'll be back for 2026. As hard as that might be to say out loud, it's a real possibility. This is a real shame, this injury.
Yeah, it's by the way, what a way to weave in a humble brag, Jimmy, just by the number on a jersey, just to chuck that back into the mix, which is great, by the way. It is an impressive
part of my
flex.
charm. It's part of my charm.
Very, very quickly.
Thank you.
It's a huge loss, and we've seen it, right? If you go back and you hear the stories, I've talked to Steve Cherundolo about this, Eddie Pope. I've talked to a number of former players, and you always hear about the guys that you're like, oh yeah, 2 weeks before or 3 weeks before or 1 month or 6 months, I was injured before a World Cup and didn't get their chance, or they had to wait another 4 years. And you hear about these stories, and it's a regular thing in the sport, injuries, right? But I think Charlie said it well with Miles. He was, I think, just realizing the upside that he could potentially have. He's not super young, as you mentioned, so 2026 is not guaranteed. He was in prime position now. It was a lock in the national team in terms of the roster. Now it becomes a little bit more complicated moving forward, just because of health and how you bounce back. And the peak of players is getting younger, although he is a center back and would still be able to help. But I think the pipeline of players is also going to be more difficult in 4 years from now. So it's a really challenging situation from him. And I don't know if you guys watch the actual video of when he goes down, but they're putting him on the stretcher, and he almost refuses to lay down because he's kind of just like, he needs a moment to realize. And I've had injuries before, significant ones, and especially ones that are repeating. You go through that, but you just see it in his face where, and this actually example of happened to me, U17 World Cup. I broke my leg the summer before the U17 World Cup. And I just remember sitting there thinking, and I was on the laughing gas. My leg was sticking one direction. My body was going the other. And I just remember thinking, like, my whole world flashed before my eyes, like all of this work. And that was just the beginning, right? I was still an amateur. I was in high school. But you could see this disappointment on his face of just how much work he put in and how far he had come and how close he was to achieving ultimately his big goal. And I'm actually curious for both of you guys on this question, and I don't want to shift it too much. But my generation, I remember, and I guess we're all sort of part of a wider spectrum of single generation, but I never dreamed of playing for a club. I dreamed of playing for the national team. And then when I dreamed of playing for the national team, I dreamed of the Olympics and I dreamed of a World Cup. That was it. That was all I knew growing up, because I knew of this thing called ODP and I knew of this World Cup, because that's there. I had no visibility to anything else. And I wonder if it's the same for him being the age that he is, but I'm assuming it's the same for you guys, right? I mean, as you get older, you think about clubs and things like that, but was that not the number one goal and dream for both of you in terms of getting to that? And I guess I'm talking about just the deflated look that he had.
There was the LA Lasers played indoor soccer where I was a kid. Okay, I had aspirations of playing indoor at one point.
I wanted to play for the Portland Pride, by the way. That was my favorite soccer, is when they were in the indoor league as well.
Because you could see it. It was tangible. It was real. You could kind of visualize yourself out there. That's why it's really important for young players to go watch games in person, because I think it aids in that ability to visualize what's possible. But yes, obviously, when I had posters up on the wall or anything I was cutting out of Soccer America back in the day, it was always guys wearing the U.S. men's national team. Desmond Armstrong, Marcelo Balboa, Erik Winalda. Don't tell him I said that because his head's going to get even bigger. All those guys that I really looked up to a lot. How about you, Chuck?
Yeah, I had the New Hampshire Phantoms. I mean, that's the club I wanted to play for. But the national team was always the goal. And in particular, the U.S. versus Mexico match is the one I really wanted to play. And that was at the top of the mountain. So, later on it was, I want to play for Arsenal. I want to play for Real Madrid. But those didn't that's not how the dream started. It was always representing your country in a World Cup and the Olympics. And so, I can relate. I was 6 months away from playing in the World Cup and kind of achieving something that I had dreamed of achieving since I was a kid, and woke up to, nope, you're never going to play in a World Cup again. So I think for him, it's just about staying positive through this process, because there have been a number of players who have come back and have had a successful career post Achilles injury. I mean, I think David Beckham is probably the first one that comes to mind. Was able to still come back and perform really well. So I think he'll be, fine in the end. He's going to obviously see, the top doctor for that surgery. Man, I'm so gutted for him, because he's such a good kid.
Yeah, we're also going to get more information about the significance or severity, let's say, of his injury, because I guess there's different types of grades in terms of the tear and how fast he can recover and all that. But that said, even if it's the minimal one, there's still a lot of work to do to get back to where you were and kind of get that trust in that area of your body again. But we have a special guest here, and I want to ask him the same question, Heath, that you just asked me and Charlie. It's Michael Parkhurst, former U.S. men's national team defender, MLS Rookie of the Year, 6-time MLS All-Star, MLS Defender of the Year, all-around great guy who also won an MLS Cup and an Open Cup and almost won a couple more with the New England Revolution, but couldn't really get there. This is how it goes in the Revs. Am I right, Parky? Had to throw some shade at him. Parky also played for Atlanta United and was there when Miles Robinson was developing into the player that he is now. And I'd like to think that Parky was one of his mentors. Michael Parkhurst, welcome to In Soccer We Trust. How are you doing, my friend?
What is up, guys? I am exponentially better now that I'm talking with you three.
I love that. So let's talk a little bit about Miles Robinson. I saw your tweet. It was just 5 no's in a row. No. I assume you're still friendly and still speaking with Miles. What have you spoken to him? That's one. And second, how are you feeling once you see that, knowing that his dreams of probably playing in a World Cup, at least for 2022, are over?
Yeah, I have spoken to him. We're pretty close. Miles is an awesome dude, and we had a good relationship. And I talked to him a lot. And I was just gutted watching it. I mean, it's just crazy because you see Brad go down it's 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago with the Achilles, and now, I mean, as soon as you saw it, you're just like, no, I didn't just see that, right? It could not be the same. But I think
especially a non-contact,
Exactly. But I think everyone, as soon as you see Miles' reaction, you're like, yeah, it probably is. So, like you guys said, just devastated for him. He's a guy that's uberly talented. I've said it from early on that he's the best one-on-one defender that I've ever played with, ever seen. ever been around. And
Kind
he's
of hurts my
developed.
feelings.
Yeah. Well,
Okay. No,
I'm
keep
surprised.
going, keep
I'm
going.
surprised he didn't say besides himself. Besides.
I had some talents, Heath, but one-on-one defending wasn't one of them, probably.
Well, yeah, but it's like the classic. What's his name? The Italian that said, like, if you're in the good spot, you don't ever have to like tackle. You don't have to like make those plays. You just read the game before anybody else. You don't get into one-on-one situations.
That's right.
But let me ask you this, Parkhurst. For a player like him, we were super high on Robinson when he was at his best in the national team. Then he hit a little bit of a dip of form. I mean, how much upside do you think he still has as a player? Obviously, I don't want to focus too much on the performances because we're going to lose him here for a bit. But just in terms of the quality, you're saying that he's the best one-on-one defender that you had seen. He's obviously got a lot of physical tools. I mean, how good could he potentially be, both for the national team and at the club level?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to hype him up too much either, because that's challenging for him and everything. But that said, he's only played consistently for 3 years now. I know he's 25, so you're right, he's not young, but for a center back, only like basically 3 years of experience, he's still kind of young in his development. I've seen some things, and you're right. I do think that he had a little bit of a dip, which is rare, because usually Miles is just so consistent, just good performances, small little mistakes here and there, but he did have a little bit of a dip, and I think there's things that he can work on. He still relies on his athletic ability too much sometimes, thinking that he can just out jump guys and win every foot race, and he doesn't use his physicality as much as he should sometimes, because I think he takes it for granted. But it is little things. But I definitely think that he's the most talented center back in the pool, and he for me was CB1 when you're looking at the World Cup.
So in terms of CP1 for the World Cup, now with him not there, considering what he provided as far as cover for Walker Zimmerman and just being able to cover so much ground, and I thought he started to develop with the ball at his feet with the national team as well, building that confidence. Who, in your mind, could fill his shoes?
Yeah, that's a tough one. I agree with you. I think him and Zimmerman were definitely top choice. The performances and the statistics say that, when those two played together, they were pretty locked down. And that's crazy because, Zimmerman took his chance, right? He wasn't even in the team, right? He got called in because of an injury or something. And then he was wearing the armband like 70 minutes later in a game. So it's just nuts, his rise and how well he's taken advantage of his opportunity. So for me, he's the leader on the back line in the middle. And so for me, it's who do you pair with him now? And I don't know. I think John Anthony Brooks is back in the conversation, if he wasn't already. Aaron Long's there. Chris Richards is there. Chris has got injuries history as well, going through stuff right now, and club situation, don't know for the fall. So there's big question marks. Which is crazy. So I think for me, man, Aaron Long's looking all right now. Obviously everyone's got their positives and negatives characteristics, but he's had a lot of experience under Gregg. So
who also came back from Achilles.
That's true, and it took him a while, right? It took him close to a year, if I'm not mistaken, or around a year. So Parky, my question for you is, who would you want to see in terms of just attributes? Doesn't have to say a name, but given what Walker brings to the table, if he's one of your center back pairings, who do you want somebody with some recovery speed, or because Aaron Long can fit that bill, assuming he's back to 100%, which I think he's still working towards that. You have Eric Palmer-Brown, who just had a big 2-2 results for Troyes against PSG this past weekend. He's getting a ton of experience and has been a lockdown guy for them over the last 14, 15 games. He's on loan from Manchester City. He's got a lot of experience. And as you mentioned, Chris Richards, we seem to be a little bit
Mark McKenzie as well by then. Mark
McKenzie, Tim
well
Ream.
Right now.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of guys. So I guess it's just attribute-wise.
You're still forgetting your guy, Cameron Carter-Vickers.
That's right. Yeah, he's going to win a second trophy with Celtic. I mean, we got plenty of guys, but what do you think would be the right pairing from an attribute? If you look at Walker, I think he's good at putting out fires before they start. He's good at putting guys in good spots to make plays. I think team shape-wise and how he holds the line, he does a very good job of that. I'm not saying he's alone in that. Everybody's got to be thinking the same things, but it seems like he's the vocal leader back there. So who would you like to see next to him just from an attribute standpoint?
Yeah, it's nice that you're looking to pair somebody with him because he doesn't have a ton of negatives, right? He is that leader, so you don't have the other center back doesn't have to be a leader, right? It can be somebody that just got straight talent and ability on the field. So that makes it a little bit easier, honestly, especially if you're bringing somebody that doesn't have a ton of national team experience. If you wanted to bring a McKenzie or Chris Richards, I know that these guys have been involved, but they don't have a ton of caps. So, I think it gives them a better opportunity rather than if it was probably Miles or maybe even somebody with less experience than those two, right? Then you probably have to look at John Anthony Brooks. But because Walker has those attributes, that probably hurts Brooks, honestly. So you can pair him with a younger guy, maybe somebody a little bit more athletic as far as pace. But I'm not sure. I don't know if I've seen enough of those guys play for the national team specifically to know exactly who is the best, other than John Anthony Brooks. And we know what his ceiling is. It's probably higher than the rest of them, but we also have seen the floor, and that's not pretty. And I don't know what's going on. Maybe they've got some stuff off the field with him and Gregg, but it'll be interesting to see if he's back in the fold at all.
I just can't believe Parkhurst is bringing one center back to the World Cup. That's it. He just denied the rest of them a plane ticket to Qatar. But Parkhurst, I mean, honestly, I want to talk about this because while you were talking, you had mentioned John Anthony Brooks and the quality that he has, and we've talked a lot about this recently about owning that back line, right? Having one person that's like, when I say step, we step. When I say drop, we drop, and having that trust and respect of somebody who's willing to take that responsibility. And you had said that might be actually a detriment to John Anthony Brooks because he does have that experience and that upside that he may be doing what he wants when he wants versus being part of a cohesive unit. I mean, for you as a player, this is just more about your experiences. I mean, how important was that to have that type of balance going into a World Cup now where you need to have that trust between center backs and your full backs, that somebody has to be able to own that line and everybody else has to really kind of fall in line? Has that been your best experiences, or can it be two leaders back there where, I mean, of course, everybody's talking all the time and communicating, but somebody who really takes the onus of saying, this is my back line, win or lose, it's going to be on me?
Yeah, I think it could work for a game, maybe two, if you don't have that relationship. But I think that, to have real success in the World Cup, at that stage, and, you have to have some cohesiveness. You have to have a partnership. And so it's not like Gregg's got the time to rotate guys in and out for camps upon camps here. Whoever he picks for the next couple games, I would say, unless they really struggle, those are my favorites to play because you want to create that. It's really difficult to play with a new center back partner, especially when you're playing against the best players in the world where, 1 foot the wrong way, one little mistake and all of a sudden you're out of the World Cup, or, you give up a goal that really hurts you. So it's not envious of the situation right now. But then again, if I'm Chris Richards, if I'm Aaron Long, if I'm Mark McKenzie, I'm thinking, hey, this is my chance, right? I got an opportunity now. That they maybe didn't have as big of an opportunity before. So, those guys got to be licking their chops thinking, shoot, this next 6 months, this could make or break it here.
I'm interested from a center back's perspective, Parky, because you're one of the best center backs I've seen playing out of the back. And you've also had time playing on at the right back position with Nordsjælland and doing in Champions League. So for this men's national team, for the U.S., who would you like to see at the 9? Is that a player who's going to run in behind and create space for Christian Pulisic or Gio Reyna underneath or Timothy Weah? Or would you rather see someone like a Jesus Ferreira who's going to check in all the time? You can play to his feet, break the lines, because it feels like now's the time that we have to make a decision what that 9 is going to be, because you can't have a 9 who's just rotating from game to game depending on who you're playing against. It's got to be a 9 who can play in any type of style and know the team has to have kind of an identity. So in your opinion, who should be the 9 and what kind of qualities should they have?
Hey, Parky, real quick, before you answer, I just want to point out what Charlie just did by complimenting you and defenders just to make it about number.
That's what I was about to say.
About number 9. Like Charlie has no interest in anything we are talking about right now.
This is a podcast about defenders, and he just wants to.
He just wants to
make it about
a
number 9.
Yeah, he's like, hey, Parky, you were good at playing out of the back. What do you think about the number 9s?
I see where you're going there, Charlie, because I think I was not too far away from being a successful number 9. I just never had the opportunity.
I thought so.
But I think that one thing Gregg always stressed when I was with Columbus was runners in behind. And so, if you play with wingers that don't run in behind, you have to have a number 9 that's going to stretch the back line. So some of it depends on who you play at the winger position, because, Ferreira can do it a little bit, but he definitely likes to, float around a little bit, play off the striker position. And that's fine, but then you have to have wingers that are stretching the field or outside backs that are pushing up, because if no one's stretching the line, right, it just makes it too easy for the defense. For me, I think right now, Pepe is your best opportunity, but he's in a bad situation right now. I mean, I was there at Augsburg under that same coach, and obviously did not have a good experience with him. And I'm not surprised, at the current situation there, because I just didn't think that he was a great coach. So unfortunately, I don't think Pepe's going to make significant strides.
Were you shocked that he went there in terms of like a young star?
Why would they pay that much for him?
I mean, I was shocked. I was shocked that, like, how does this make sense for a young guy who's in form right now to go to a club that's fighting relegation? Parky, you know what it's like there when you're fighting relegation and you're in a smaller club, how difficult that is and how just sort of unstable the floor is.
Oh, it's so tough. It's so challenging. Shoot, and I did it in Denmark where it wasn't as much pressure as Germany, right? Yeah, when I went to Germany, we fought relegation as well, but I wasn't playing that much. So it was a little bit different. But I mean, I was surprised, like Jimmy said, I'm surprised they paid that much, but no, I'm not surprised he took it because, right, that's significant money. Mm-hmm. So he's got to be making, a good chunk of change. So that's tough to turn down, right? It's tough to say, oh, that's not a good opportunity for me, especially if you believe in yourself, right? I went there and I believed in myself. I said, I'm going to change this guy's attitude towards me. But it just didn't happen. And so I'm sure he thinks the same thing. And right, he's a kid that works his tail off. So, they're going to give him every opportunity, of course, but it's not a great situation for him headed into a World Cup. That's for sure.
So, Parky, you played 4 years with the Revs and then made the move to Denmark to play for Nordsjælland for 5 years. And as Charlie said, you got to play in the Champions League, then moved to Augsburg in this Bundesliga for 2 seasons, then came back to MLS. Now, I know there's a lot of talk. We see some players that go, they come back. How important was that experience for you to go over to Europe and kind of get outside of your bubble? And then obviously to make the decision to come back and be like, hey, I actually need some games. I need to play. Because sitting on the bench watching others isn't that great either.
I only came back at that time. I wasn't playing at Augsburg, but I only came back because the World Cup was 6 months away, and I had a legit chance to make it. Right, I was in that 30-man camp right before the 2014 World Cup, and I was one of the 7 that was cut. So I had a good chance of making the World Cup, and I knew that I needed to be playing regularly in order to really give myself a chance. So that's why I came back, because I enjoyed my time over there. I loved it. You take a chance, right? You think going to Denmark is probably pretty level with MLS. I didn't go over there for the money. It was for the experience and to challenge myself and to see if I could do something with it, right? And of course, we pull like a Leicester City-esque run. We win the championship and play in Champions League. It's nuts, right? That's probably the club dream. Like Heath was talking about World Cup, right? And in that club, it's like, yeah, you're going to play in Champions League. So glad that I did that, and an awesome opportunity. But I always say it's not for everyone, right? You don't have to go anymore, right? You can make a good living in MLS. The level is good. It's not up for everyone to challenge that and to want to do that and to have the family that wants to do it as well, and then have that support system, because some guys go over there, they don't have any support system. They end up in this small little town with nothing going on. They're in the middle of nowhere. They just go to training and they go back and they sit at their apartment. And if things aren't going well on the field, then life is terrible. And so it can be challenging.
I will say this though, Parkhurst, you did live in central Copenhagen. So it's,
in your old apartment.
Yeah. You exclude yourself from being out in the suburbs, Actually, you did move to the suburbs eventually, but that was by choice. you know, you were a family man. You had to get out of all the chaos because, you know, where Parkhurst and I actually lived was a pretty rowdy area of town and full of life.
Single Heath. We need just a podcast alone on Single Heath.
Yeah. Oh man, no, we don't. You know, Parkhurst, I guess you know, while we have you here, I'm super curious just about, you know, Charlie mentioned it a little bit earlier, and it felt like, you know, the way that you played with Columbus, with Gregg, the way Gregg, it seems like he wanted to play. He wanted to have the center backs wide, fullbacks high and wide, space for the midfielders to move and interchange and build out. And it feels like we got to a certain point in qualifying where we just accepted, like, hey, Walker Zimmerman's the guy, and he's not going to play out. He's not going to play through things. He can make a good pass, and he can do those things solid. But he's not a John Anthony Brooks in terms of can hit a long diagonal, can play through tight lines, can those types of things. Do you think that's been an evolution for Gregg Berhalter? Because it does seem like how we wanted to play and how we're actually playing in terms of building out is a little bit different than what I think he'd ideally want to do.
Yeah, and I think it's a challenging ask to play center back under Gregg, right? Because you're really torn because he's saying play out, play out, play out, play out. And you know that, you know, the more times you play out, the more risk there is of making one mistake, and that one mistake might end up in the back of your net versus those 8 wonderful passes you broke lines that, you know, you give it to a number 9 and they don't do anything with it, you know. And you know,
throwing shade at number 9. You got plenty of time for it, Parkhurst.
Exactly. Hey, this is a Defenders podcast.
Not this one.
The risk reward there, it sometimes doesn't balance out, right? And I think that we went through that a little bit with Columbus, especially when we played the Red Bulls, right? Because with the Red Bulls, they pressed for 90 minutes, and it was like you might play out of that 8 times perfectly, right? But those 2 times that you don't play out are way more dangerous for them than those 8 times that we do play out. So we got to a point where it was like, hey, we got Kai Kamara up there. Like, let's just kick the ball long and we'll play off Kai, right? Like, okay, we've got this style of play that we can rely on in certain aspects and certain times, but hey, like, let's not shoot ourselves in the foot here, right? Let's play to our strengths and their weaknesses sometimes. And that's a challenge for center backs under Gregg, because I think they get torn as to, should I play out or should I play safe here? Especially, you know, what the opponent is, what the score is, how the field conditions, whatever the stuff, right, that players are thinking about. But then they got Gregg in the back of the mind, like play out, play out, play out, play out. So it's really challenging sometimes.
But you navigated it well. I might add. In terms of Gregg Berhalter, you played for some great managers. I mean, all the way back to Stevie Nicol and Paul Mariner, you know, and you Tata Martino. And seeing where Gregg was, and I remember thinking when we played the Columbus Crew, I was like, yes, because I know you guys were playing out at anything. It was like, well, press. If you're a striker, you're going to get chances. But that's just how it is with the way you play it. But seeing how Gregg has matured, where do you think his strengths are right now, and how have you seen his development with this group in particular?
Well, number one, I think that he's brought the national team together, right? The camaraderie within the group seems to be like an all-time high. And that's just from the outside looking in, right? I talked to a couple of the guys, but, you know, I'm not in there. I don't know that for sure. And you 3 probably know better than I would. But just from an outsider's perspective, it just seems like the mood within the national team and the mood to be in a camp is just really high. It seems like they enjoy being around each other, enjoy playing for Gregg and the project and the success. So he's done a really good job, you know, bringing in younger guys, incorporating some of the older guys, you know, just the cohesiveness of the group. You know, and I think that it helps that he's so structured and so organized, because that's what we appreciated in Columbus, right? We showed up for training. We knew that we were going to love training every day, right? We was going to be structured. You know, we knew that we were going to be pushed to our limit, but not too far. Like, everything was to a T. And you just like to play for a coach like that, right? When you know what's asked of you, what's wanted of you, and, you know, not that it's so robotic on the field, but it's nice to have that structure, and then you can kind of free play off of that, rather than you just, you know, playing for someone, you know, like Jurgen, where maybe it's not so tactically cohesive, and you're just going out there and you're like, well, you're all good players, just figure it out. It's not that easy all the time, right?
No, I was going to say, Parky, that I think that structure, having that frame of reference, that foundational base, helps you when things aren't going your way, because everybody knows what to lean back on and to think about when we don't have the ball, when we're trying to chase it, and it helps, I think, bring some calmness and doesn't allow so much chaos and anxiety and stress to come into it. Now, because we have you on, and as I start to think about your career and everybody you've played for and all the experiences you've played for Ricardo Pepi's coach at Augsburg. You played for Gregg Berhalter in Columbus. You also played for Tata Martino, as Charlie mentioned, for Atlanta United. So let's talk a little Mexico. And Tata Martino, didn't he win, 23 out of the first 25 games he was in charge? Everything was going great. Then he can't beat the U.S. over the last year, and then the sky's falling, but they still qualify for the World Cup. How do you think Tata is going to do heading into this World Cup, given their group with Argentina and Poland and I believe Saudi Arabia, right? So, what do you think about their group and their chances under Tata, especially given your experience and all the success you had winning MLS Cup with him?
Yeah, I think that it was unjust. It seemed like after every game, it was like, oh, Tata's going to get fired or Tata's on the hot seat. And I thought, man, this is crazy. They're basically a point away from the U.S. team the whole time. I didn't think they were ever really in doubt to not qualify. So it was like, man, this is so crazy. The Mexico press is just so difficult on their head coaches. And I love Tata, even as a person, he's just a calm demeanor, a great guy. And he always puts it all about the players, right? Not on the negative side. Like when there's defeat, he'll take it, but he was never in front of the camera celebrating or in front of the, clapping the fans or anything like that. And I actually look back and I think when we celebrated MLS Cup in the locker room and all that stuff, like he wasn't there. And he didn't care. Like he I don't want to say he didn't care, but he just didn't want that to be on him. It was all about the players. And I think the players really appreciate that. I think just looking from the outside, it looks like the players appreciate Tata. Like I can't remember who scored a goal. He went over and hugged Tata. That was right at a time where it was like there was a lot of pressure on him. It was just like a message that like, hey, the team's got his back. And so, he has the experience of playing in World Cups and coaching in World Cups and big tournaments. So they'll be prepared. And similar to Gregg now, they're going to go after teams, right? How Tata plays is how he plays. And he's going to go after every team, including Argentina. Actually, nobody's better, more well-prepared to play against Argentina than him. They're in a tough group, of course, but, I'm really rooting for him personally to do well with that group.
That's well said. Parkhurst, I got one more question for you. And just so everybody knows in this group, I've known Parkhurst by far the longest out of any of you. So
okay,
when would that
We've
start?
been friends
so
longer kind of thing.
When did that start?
That would have been residency 2000, I'm guessing.
Yeah, maybe even before that. I was down there at 98.
Yeah,
so
90. Yeah, so maybe 90.
You got me.
This is Y2K, level like throwback. It's Y2K. So I still got bottles of water from what was going to happen during Y2K. I never did. Parkhurst, for you now, I mean, how much we've talked about actually a lot about these managers. Have you seen an evolution of the manager and the player relationship throughout your career? And I guess if there's one thing that you would change, and you don't have to name any managers, but if there's one thing that you think needs to be implemented into the game from a managerial setting, just in terms of relationships with players and how much the younger generations have played. You talked about Miles Robinson coming through. I mean, what would it be, or what have you seen in terms of the game changing between the relationship of managers and players?
It's a really good question. It's a really a broad one because there's so many different things that go into it, right? Tata was a great coach and a great manager, but only for like the top 14 guys on the roster, right? Miles Robinson did not get enough coaching under Tata.
That's a really interesting point. Yeah, that's crazy.
He cared about winning, and he knew the top 14, 15, 16 guys, that's who he needed to win, right? So Miles didn't get the development that he needed, right? There are coaches that are better with developing the overall roster of a team than others. That was not one of Tata's strengths. So there's that. But I also think that there's managers these days. I don't want to single them out, but
single them out.
Sometimes
single them out.
Name a name.
They're sometimes coming from South America that they're so focused on like, this, that they don't take into account like the human being and like, having a manager to play for, right? And
we all know those.
Oh, you're talking about
all had those coaches.
I think you're talking about the old LA Galaxy staff before Greg Vanny came in. That's literally what they heard. They'd be like, "Hey, sir, the whole team is in the red in terms of injury risk," and they're like, "Doesn't matter. We're going out and we're training harder today because like we got to get the mind going."
Are you talking about Schelotto?
Yeah, Schelotto's whole crew.
I think
yeah,
he's talking about
Hein-
Gabriel Heinze, but it's
all,
okay.
all
Keep
of
going.
them. All of them.
All of them.
And I just look back to my time with Stevie Nickel, right? And it was like Stevie and Paul the Mariner, right? We didn't watch one session of film. We didn't work out in the gym. We didn't do tactics, none of it, nothing. And okay, I'm talking about a different time era, right? Things were different, 15, 20 years ago. But there's something said for a coach that guys love, right? And they have a little bit of freedom and they're given that respect to be a good professional, but show up and train hard. And I think that's what Bruce gets out of guys, right?
Mhm.
They've got a little bit of freedom off the field. And then you have these structured guys where it's like, hey, you can't leave the hotel on a game day, or, you have to wear this, and you have to eat at this time and this time. And there's no freedom a little bit. And so there's definitely a balance. And I think that's some MLS teams are seeing that right now. And I think that's why you're seeing like these American coaches coming back in, where it was like before everyone was looking for the next foreign great. And now you're getting these USL guys promoted. You're getting young American guys promoted. So yeah, it's a balance. And Heath, one of the other things I always talk about is like, would you rather have a great manager or a great coach? And it's a little bit different. And they don't always go hand in hand.
With the national team, it's manager, no doubt. You're at that level for a reason. You don't need, a coach to be like, hey guys, we're going to work on technique here and here. No, this is my team. This is my formation, and this we're going to play. It's almost like you guys figure it out, but this is
not under Greg. Greg wants to press. He wants to play out of everything. Look at
Parkhurst the hard
way,
though.
Parky still has anxiety in his eyes from playing under Greg, having to play against the Red Bulls. I can see that. I can see a little bit of trauma there
He
from
had
being like,
he had a specific team he was talking about. That's crazy.
He said, we played out of it 8 times, but the 2 times
Yeah.
Bradley Wright Phillips is doing his heel click in the corner.
Yeah.
You love to see that. All right, Parky. Well, before we let you go, we are starting a new tradition here where we talk about our favorite jersey swaps. So given your illustrious career, was there any jersey that you swapped with somebody, or maybe one that you regret not getting when you had the opportunity during your time as a professional?
There's more I regret not getting than getting, because I wasn't a big jersey swapper. I was always afraid of like guys saying no, like
the rejection.
Piss off, you little nobody. I did get a jersey from each of the Champions League games that we played against.
That's awesome.
So
Who'd you guys have in your group? Yeah.
Chelsea, Juventus, and Shakhtar.
Yeah, easy
Pretty
group,
good.
right?
Pretty good.
Who were the 3? Who were the 3?
And who'd you play in the knockout rounds? I assume you got through that group.
Yeah, 1 point was good enough to get through. David Luiz for Chelsea.
Nice.
What about the second game?
No, I only asked 1 time each, and honestly, I got lucky with Luiz. I asked like 4 other guys, and they all said no, and I was like,
Was Nordsjælland a Nike club by then? Because at least it was like a brand that somebody would want to trade for, get like a Nike jersey as opposed to like
he said
H2O was the brand when I was there,
It was Calper and Kelme.
Kelme would have been a step up. No,
I know.
I'm pretty sure David Luiz threw my jersey in the crowd before he even got to the locker room.
You're like Skyhook.
Who was the Juve?
Yeah, who's Juve?
Marchisio.
Yeah.
Marchisio.
That's a good one. Yeah, that's a good one.
That's a good one. Yeah. Okay. Well, how about your biggest regret though? You had an opportunity and you didn't take it. Who would that be?
I wish I had gotten Pirlo's when we played.
So did Jimmy.
I don't want any throwbacks.
I cannot believe Del Piero came up to this man Jimmy to trade, and he said no thanks.
I wanted Pirlo's. There's a big.
Can you imagine that?
What a flex!
It is a flex. It is a flex. Oh wait. So Pirlo, what with NYCFC, or was it national team, or what was it?
Yeah, NYC. And I wish I had gotten a Brazil jersey. Anybody on the team, honestly, when we played Brazil and with the national team, I don't know why I didn't even get a jersey.
Yeah. That's a shame. Yeah. So on that sad note, we're going to let Michael Parkhurst go. Michael Parkhurst, everybody. We appreciate you, Parky. And thank you for all that insight. We're going to have you back on very, very soon because you've got a ton of insights, and we love you, big guy. So keep being you. We'll see you soon.
Good to connect again, guys. Keep doing
Michael
your thing.
Parkhurst.
Later, fellas.
Michael
Later.
Parkhurst. Michael Parkhurst.
I saw,
All right, everybody.
I
We're
saw
gonna take
Julius
our.
C come at you, Jimmy, with saying you swapped
Oh
with Di
yeah,
Stefano.
here
It's
we
more
go.
like you
Here
swapped
we
with
go.
Franco Baresi. Didn't you swap with him?
I'm not that old, man. I'm not that old. All right, we're going to take our first and only break, but when we return, we're going to break down a little bit more of what we should want to see or hope to see with Miles Robinson now being out with our back line, especially for these June friendlies. And of course, we'll take any questions that you want to give us in the comments or hit us up on Twitter, ISWT Pod. We'll answer those in the future. We'll be right back.
This season, I've only invited an elite group of competitors. This will be your biggest competition yet.
You don't come to a challenge and not be ready to win.
This is the most cutthroat game.
Gone are the days of men running the game.
Only shooting stars break the mold.
The Challenge All-Stars, streaming May 11th exclusively on Paramount+.
Welcome back to In Soccer We Trust. I'm Jimmy Conrad alongside Charlie Chuck Wagon Davies and Hollywood Heath Pierce. And that was awesome. Michael Parkhurst was just on. Make sure you hit like and subscribe on YouTube and hit subscribe and leave us a 5-star review on any podcast platform of your choice. We really appreciate all the support. We'll keep giving you good guests, including Mr. Eddie Johnson, another former U.S. men's national team, is going to be joining us on Thursday. So Chuck can finally get his number 9 talk with another number 9 that used to wear the red, white, and blue instead of me and Heath always bringing on defenders with Hector Moreno and Walker Zimmerman and whoever else we have on the show. So we appreciate your support. Keep it coming so we can keep getting those great guests because they want to be on and be a part of this community just like all of us. What I love about all these guys is they're just fans. They love the game and the team as much as we do. So Charlie,
the defenders,
well,
the strikers speaking. These guys, Charlie talks in third person sometimes. You know what I mean?
Well, so Heath, I'll come to you first as a defender because Parky was a defender. Anything stand out from his interview? Anything that he said that was like, wow, that's info I didn't know before, or what do you think?
No, I mean it's just I feel like Parkhurst was one of him and Chad Marshall were ones that for different reasons kind of screwed out of what I think should have been much more illustrious national team careers because of the way in which Parkhurst played, right? You could go 90 minutes and not see Parkhurst because he was always in the right spot to make the plays. He was never going to make that big challenge, that last-ditch effort, because he read the game quicker than other people. He did so many good things at such a high level that he simplified the game around you. And when you're on the field next to him, you just knew when you could take risks or you could cheat a little bit, and he knew where to be all the time. And there's just something about him that I wish more people, and he got a lot of national team caps, but I wish he would have gotten more for other people to see. Because if you look at his awards, anywhere he played domestically, he was the best player generally on every team that he played on, and it was unbelievable. But the thing that I guess the point I was trying to get to is his intelligence. Like he's a pretty soft-spoken guy. He doesn't talk a lot during games, but the way he sees the game, reads the game, understands the game, like his IQ for football is so high, and in real time is so fast that it's just really impressive. So when you hear him talk about it, it's just such a clear perspective and delivery that you go, man, you want this guy to be in the coaching world. You want him to be close to players.
Well, he's helping do some stuff, and I probably should have given him the opportunity to advertise that. So we have to bring him on for sure. But I wish he was with an MLS club. I wish he was with U.S. Soccer in some capacity because he's got so much to offer. Charlie, anything stand out for you about anything out of the mouth of Michael Parkhurst?
I mean, just Pepe's situation at Augsburg.
Yeah, I didn't know he played for his coach. I would have been right there on that. That's unbelievable.
So, I mean, I think it goes a long way for him to say that's not going to be a place for him to play, for him to really develop. So the coach must not really, have a compassion for an American player or Americans in general, and 2, probably not a coach that's going to give you confidence, instill confidence in you and belief. So from that perspective, I don't know how you can part ways with a massive investment like that and allow him to leave, without getting anything in return. And, is it a loan? But you don't want to really get loaned from the Bundesliga because it's like, where you going to Belgium to a top club there, like Club Brugge or Anderlecht, or you come back to Major League Soccer. I mean, there's not too many moves you can make from a loan move from Augsburg.
Yeah, it was an interesting comment as well. And I think a lot of people in the comments were saying the same. CJ is like, those comments about Augsburg and Pepe made me nervous about his future. It makes me wish that Parkhurst maybe could have got to Pepe first, going, hey, I understand the money that's being thrown around, but here are about 5 things you need to take into consideration with this coach before you take that step. Because I get the sense that maybe Pepe had other opportunities, but it wasn't as tantalizing.
I'm not sure if he had other opportunities. That's my worry, because his price tag was so high for his age and how little experience that he did. Like, I don't think Ajax put in the bid that could match Augsburg. And if you're FC Dallas, Ricardo Pepi also came out of that situation basically going public and saying, I want to leave the club. So it was already sort of soured by the time that he was going to go, that it was going to go to the highest bidder. If you're FC Dallas and you're trying to prove a model within your academy, like, you're going to take that highest bidder. And I just don't see anybody else. I don't think Wolfsburg would have spent 20 mil. I mean, it was a massive fee. And for a club like that to come through, it just, and he said it, like, you know, it's tough to say no to that. You guys both know at certain points in your career, an offer comes through that you're like, I don't know. But yeah, that money looks pretty good. Maybe this is what's best for me. And so I think a mix of probably being one of the few options and tough to turn down is a tough one for sure.
Yeah, imagine if Ajax came in for like 7.5 or 10.
They had Sebastian Haller. He's never going to play.
No, and I know that.
They paid them for
that system would help develop him quicker than this the dickhead at Augsburg that's coaching him.
They paid that for Sebastian Haller around that, didn't they? Wasn't it 20
like
something?
Yeah, like
but that was their biggest incoming transfer ever for Sebastian Haller.
So Pepe's never going to play there.
Yeah.
So Ajax is a moot point because that's not a place that you're going to go in because you never see the field.
No, that's fair. That's fair. I guess the other thing that jumped out for me about the Parkhurst interview was just his ties to all the national team coaches with Berhalter and Tata Martino. And I'm like, and you know, all these guys, I'm like, wow, this is incredible. We should have had him on a long time ago because he's got so many dots that are connected to a lot of the things that we're talking about. But again, we'll have him on again soon. We appreciate Michael Parkhurst, his time and his insight, of course. All right, let's us three. Go ahead, John.
Well, I was going to say, given what he said and talking about Miles Robinson, we haven't really heard from either of you being all-star defenders that you are. Who should take his place? What is the pecking order now for that position? Give me 1, 2, 3.
I had Aaron Long as my starter in June. Like,
okay, who's 2 and 3?
You went with Aaron Long because you thought that's what Gregg was going to go with.
Well, yeah,
what do you want? Charlie's asking what you want, Heath.
Okay, no one's ever asked me this before. Yesterday was Mother's Day. It's back to me. Yesterday was Mother's Day. Today it's about me again. Thank you. Yeah, no, I mean, I weirdly, I liked, and it's hard, Charlie, because I think you're right that Aaron Long has not been back to his best yet. But Aaron Long in the national team was pretty good. Now, it's a little duplicative with Walker Zimmerman in terms of the attributes they bring to the table, but Aaron Long has more pace and he put out more fires. He actually has quite a bit similar to Miles Robinson, just a little bit more experience going into a professional experience and I guess big game experience going towards the World Cup. And that's why I like him. Whereas Miles Robinson, like Parker, I asked Parkhurst about that dip in form because I didn't expect that from a Miles Robinson with the age that he is. I didn't expect him to have this sort of setback of quality, whereas Walker Zimmerman took his run and took his chance and ran with it. I expect that to be from Aaron Long. So I expect him to be number one next to him as well. I don't think John Anthony Brooks is back in the team because for the reasons that Parkhurst mentioned, like you're not going to follow, you don't really make sense. Like you got to be a starter and a leader. And if I'm not going to give you that, I don't really see where you fit within this conversation. And then from there, I like the potential of Chris Richards. I like the potential of the form that Mark McKenzie's in right now. But again, it sort of missed a good amount of time for a lot of the season that I just wonder if there's any turning back for him with Gregg. Gregg seemed to have liked him, continued to bring him in when he wasn't playing, but sort of kind of rounded that corner of not being called in again. And so I'm confused there from where you go in terms of center backs. Cameron Carter-Vickers, I think, will get his shot. I don't, again, think, if we're facing like wave after wave of attack against somebody, I think Cameron Carter-Vickers could be good. Again, I worried about just the quality of the ball at his feet and where he's at with that in his development. And then from there, I'm missing one.
You're missing Eric Palmer-Brown.
Eric Palmer-Brown.
Yeah. He's one that I just need a bigger sample size. And I think Parker said it really well, not to keep going back to that, of like, I don't think we've seen enough of any of these guys to know who that number 2 is.
That's why these friendlies are important though, Heath, because now at least, I mean, I'm disappointed that Miles Robinson and sad that Miles Robinson is hurt. But if he'd gotten hurt after these 4 friendlies, or 2 friendlies and 2 Nations League games, and now we only have 2 games in September to test people. I guess I'm not trying to find a silver lining here, but there is one that's emerged. At least now we know that we have to try a partnership with Walker, and these games are going to be really important to make that happen. We were already kind of there anyway, but the emphasis is there.
By the way, just real quick, before you say that, the fact that Parkhurst had him as CB1 and I didn't, just because of that last run of form, that would be a lot more worrying if we were rotating that other center back and we just lost Walker Zimmerman, who was the most consistent throughout qualifying, above Walker Zimmerman. But the fact that Zimmerman's emerged gives me relief, knowing that previous to that, like, who would that have been? Where would we be now if we lost our CB1 and we don't have anybody else to and we're still kind of trying to sort out the other position?
So here are the things that I'm looking at, and I'm going to say it in order. Positioning. They have to understand how they move within the team. And that's why those minutes with Walker and whoever the right back is, Serginho Dest, whoever plays there in these friendlies, is super important. About when to step, when to drop. All that is incredibly important to the fluidity of our team and our team shape overall. That is key. Second thing that's very close to number 1 with regard to positioning is recovery speed. Now, I think that's a knock on Brooks. I think there's a knock on Cameron Carter-Vickers with regard to recovery speed. Walker Zimmerman might fall into that lack of recovery speed as well. We need somebody that isn't necessarily one of our outside backs. We know that Serginho Dest and Anthony Robinson have good speed, but recovery speed is different. Both of you know this. It's that recognition that shit's about to hit the fan and there's some danger, and I need to just be ready to go. I'm recognizing the danger. And I can see that the worst case scenario. And so that falls into positioning a little bit too. But having the ability to have the recovery speed to recognize the situation, positioning, and then to get there is recovery speed is super important. Third would be obviously with the ball. Can we play out of situations and you know, are we relaxed with the ball? Are we calm? Because that's going to calm everybody else down, especially if we're touching in that area of the field seems to touch it quite a bit. So, and I like what Parker said actually too about playing under Gregg and not trying to play it into dangerous situations just to play, because that's what the coach wants. Sometimes the game necessitates other things, and sometimes you just need to put it into the corner and turn them around, and then we can press from there. So I think Gregg's actually evolved from that, because we saw iterations of the U.S. team, especially against Mexico in New York, where I was there. We lost 3-0, where Zach Steffen touched the ball more than Christian Pulisic, because we tried to play out of every single thing. And I think we've evolved from that. But those are the things that I'd be looking at. So when I think about those attributes, and that's why I wanted to get Parky's thoughts on this too, I don't know which player fits that the best. Because, again, to you guys' point, we don't have the sample size. Is it Chris Richards?
Well, is it 3 players, I think?
I think we got Chris Richards, Palmer Brown, and Mark McKenzie, I think, are the 3. Because if you could take out Brooks and Carter Vickers.
You might want to throw Aaron Long in there. I think he
okay, Aaron Long. Sorry. So you got 4 there.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you think, Heath, that Mark McKenzie's got the recovery speed, or
I mean, yeah, he's got the recovery speed.
But what about those are all the things that I'm thinking about with regard to, let's leave Walker out of it, just in terms of that position, but having Walker know that he can be the vocal guy and he can be the leader that kind of leads. Then you just need somebody that can just see what he's doing and then be prepared for whatever else we need from that other center back.
Yeah,
especially if they can step into midfield too. Eric Palmer Brown used to play holding midfield for our youth national team, so I think there's some value and potentially his ability to see what it's like. If he's got let's say it is Palmer Brown. Let's give a situation. Palmer Brown comes in, plays against England. Harry Kane is immense at dropping into midfield. Well, okay, let's say it's Eric Palmer Brown. He follows Harry Kane. He wins the ball. He's very comfortable in that spot in the field to help us transition into the attack. So just a little thing just to throw in there situationally.
It's all about compatibility. It's always about compatibility in terms of the 2 center backs. You lose Robinson, and Miles Robinson was so great at covering ground. I think where you need to really improve with the national team was the ball at his feet. Although he has improved, I think he still had a ways to go. Mark McKenzie has the recovery speed. I mean, that year he had with the Philadelphia Union when they won the Supporters Shield, he was fantastic. But I think when it comes up to the national team level, international, it's been a little shaky. And I don't think the confidence has been there, and that comes with repetition. And we're not in the mindset of giving players caps to catch up, you know.
Right.
I think that knocks him down the totem pole in terms of who's going to be that guy, because Gregg Berhalter is going to rely on who he can trust, who he's confident in. So then that brings you to Aaron Long, and that brings you to Chris Richards, who has done it, but now he's a little bit injured, coming out of a foot injury, then now hamstring injury. So these are valuable minutes right now for young center backs playing in Europe. I think ultimately it's going to come down to Aaron Long, who's played 10 games this year in MLS, has scored 2 goals. And so in the last match against the Portland Timbers, he scored. And then Erik Palmer-Brown, who's playing consistently. Those 2 players are playing game in, game out, and playing well. Cameron Carter-Vickers is playing, but he doesn't offer you the same recovery speed and pace as Miles Robinson and those 2.
Yeah, I guess he's kind of more of the Walker Zimmerman of the center back pairing is Cameron Carter-Vickers and John Anthony Brooks, for all those clamoring for him as well. Now, everybody, if you want to join in on this conversation, hit us up in the comments. What are the 3 factors for you? Put them in order that you think are the most important in this center back position, especially if they're pairing with Walker Zimmerman, if you consider him our first center back. And I think all 3 of us do. And then hit us up at ISWT Pod on Twitter. We'd love to get your thoughts there on the Twitter. Drop us a follow. We'd love that. Heath, what are you saying? Who do you think we're going to see against Morocco on June 1st at that center back pair?
I mean, the thing that I still think Aaron Long and Walker Zimmerman, but what I'm most worried, I'm actually curious more in this from you guys. Are you guys at all worried about this team, this defense? Like at a World Cup level, are you worried about this defense, or do you think we're as good as we think we are defensively? Now, we've lost Robinson, and Robinson had his flaws, and I wasn't sold on him being at the World Cup level yet from the dip in form. But when he was previously, I was like, this guy's lights out. But are you not at all a little bit worried about Walker Zimmerman, Aaron Long are lining up against England? Can we actually? Is that good enough?
Go ahead, Charlie.
You're the center back. You go
So I'll say that I'll just lean on my World Cup experience, because when I got picked to play or be a part of the team, the 23-man roster for 2006, there's 30 pundits picked the teams before, and I remember seeing this, and only one pundit picked me to be on the World Cup roster in 2006, and it was Marcelo Balboa, because he saw, and I talked to him afterwards, he's like, I saw how you fit into the team and under Bruce's kind of thing, and because of this compatibility that you're talking about, that I can play with Gooch or I can play with Eddie Pope, and it can be seamless, and I know how to move with these guys, and I know what their instincts are. So I know when Gooch is going to go step, and I know when he's going to drop off, and I think that's really important as well. But I had plenty of friendlies and plenty of trainings with those guys that maybe have a little bit more than the guys that we're looking at right now. So I think there's got to be someone that can adapt to certain situations is somebody I would look at. It does make me a little bit nervous that Chris Richards is a bit brittle right now and seems to be getting hurt a lot more. And I understand when you're coming back from an injury, especially a foot injury, you're probably running a little bit different, right? Your form's a little bit different because you're either consciously or subconsciously trying to not step in that same spot to not hurt your foot. That's normal when you're coming back. So I'm not surprised he has a hamstring injury, but that gives me some concern. Then you got Cameron Carter-Vickers, who I want to see. Maybe that is the pairing. Maybe him and Walker are going to be the best pairing. We just have to see it, and we have to give it a shot. So yeah, this is tough. I don't know exactly, but ultimately I brought me up because I think a lot of people thought, why, what? I mean, Twitter wasn't in full effect, so people weren't bashing why Jimmy Conrad's going, but I'm sure there are a lot of thoughts going. I don't know if this guy fits. I don't know if he's good enough. I don't know if he's World Cup level, to your point, Heath. And that's fine. That would have been a fair argument, but you don't know who's going to emerge and step up when the time comes. And so I feel like you have to see some of the intangibles, and I think that will emerge. And I'm sure Gregg already has, and he's already identified it. I mean, I think he's made it clear that John Anthony Brooks is not going to go with him for some of these intangibles that I don't think we're aware of, but maybe will come to light as time passes on. I don't know if there's a straight answer for this, but I do want to see some of the partnerships moving together. I thought that the Miles Robinson, Walker Zimmerman line, I said it before, I'm going to continue to say it. The line that they held in Mexico City at Azteca was fantastic. They didn't drop too deep. They weren't too high, didn't leave too many gaps. And if we can figure out a way to mimic that, then I think that's going to put us in a good spot, especially as it pertains to Anthony Robinson and Serginho Dest, and making sure that balance of who goes forward and who stays back, and really taking those risks in a way where if we can create numerical advantages out wide, we got to take it, but not to the point where it's a complete detriment to our team going back. Anyway, I don't think I answered your question. I am a little bit nervous, Heath. I will say that we're losing an option that we know and we have trusted, and he's shown up in big games for us. And so when you lose somebody of that quality, it 100% hurts the team. But now, as Charlie said before, it's a great opportunity for somebody else.
I was waiting for you to answer this, Heath. This was the longest answer in history about are you nervous or are you not nervous?
Well, I was channeling my inner Heath Pierce.
I mean, clearly you're nervous, Jimmy. You're rambling.
That was just ramble.com.
Hey, I know we're getting close to the end of the show, but while we were talking to Parkhurst, I was searching for some different things to just see what games Parkhurst and I had played together and whatnot. And I come across this Gold Cup Granada commentary from soccer from Ives Gallerstep on Soccer by Ives. And I'm going to give you a few snippets from this like sort of whatever it's called, the live whatever, when you're like kind of commenting throughout the game. What's it called?
Live blogging? I don't know.
Whatever it is. Yeah. So pregame, whatever. We're going into the game. First minute starts. We go into the fourth minute. Slow start to the match. Does Heath Pierce have a buzz cut? He used to have some of the best hair on the national team. Funny, funny what a slump will make you try to do. Okay. And this is Ives. Like, what a POS he is for this. You fast forward. 13th minute. Heath Pierce with a bad touch and giveaway. Not a good start for him. And then you go on to like late into the half, and we start to get Charlie Davies comments, which is great. Here it is. A great sequence. Marshall long ball to Pierce, who sends right into a wide open Davies, who finishes it off with ease. Beautiful stuff. Not sure about the Davies goal dance. Maybe that's big in Sweden.
Is he out of his mind?
Yeah, it's basically comedy commentary, which at the time was probably great for the emerging fan. But man, he came after us in a lot of these whole things. Jimmy, we're in the opening though, and I don't actually remember this. Did you dress for that game or not dress for something? Because it says there was a couple guys that didn't dress for the Granada game, 2009 Gold Cup. And they thought it was Ching. I haven't read.
I didn't dress for that one because they were resting. I don't know. They're just rotating the squad.
Yeah, they said we were playing against Honduras soon, and it was a bigger game, and that it was likely you and Parkhurst were going to be starting in that one. Which is what I was looking for, information on that sort of stuff. But yeah, I didn't know if all four of us got on the field at one point or not.
That would have been awesome if we had, but it doesn't seem like
I think we did. No.
I don't know. We'll have to look that up.
It would have had to have been Gold
Cup
for
next time.
Yeah.
You know what, though? We might have done it together with our next guest, who's coming on Thursday, everybody. Eddie Johnson, former U.S. men's national team striker and longtime friend of all of us. Eddie Johnson is coming on Thursday. That'll happen 12 p.m. Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern, because this show is over, everybody. It is done. It is dusted.
Keep it going.
I know I want to keep it going, but then you called me ramble.com, and I feel like we got to stop. No more rambling. No more rambling. So on behalf of producer Des, producer Alex, Charlie Davies, Heath Pierce, and Jimmy Conrad saying thank you for listening to In Soccer We Trust. Hit like and subscribe anywhere you can hit those buttons. If you see them, just hit them, because we appreciate your support. And we'll see you next time. Later.